Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about variables. So in C programming, a variable is a block of memory which is used to store data. Now what do I mean by block of memory? So as you might have aware about a chip, about uh, a small piece of memory that we call RAM, which is present in our CPU. Right? RAM means random access memory. It's a volatile memory, which means like when you shut down your computer, whatever things that you stored in RAM will be going to get destroyed. Okay. So every variable that you are going to create in C programming language is basically a piece of block, which means like let's just say, okay, so as you can see from this picture, we have uh, a very small portion of RAM, and we and I have created a like rectangular shaped, so you can assume that these rectangular shaped boxes are basically a part of RAM, a very small portion of RAM, and within these boxes we are going to store data. So these small boxes is where we are going to store the data. Okay. Now to indicate these storage area, this block of memory, we identify these block of memory by using variables. So there is one more way to define variables, as variable is another name for a portion of memory or block of memory. Okay, so you can let me write it down here. So variable is a name given to a block of memory where data can be stored. So this is one way of defining variable. You can also say that it's just a symbolic representation of a memory location. So you have RAM, okay, and those RAMs consist of several memory locations. So you pick, so as the name suggests, random access, which means we are randomly accessing any piece of RAM, any piece of memory in the RAM, and then we are naming it, and that name is the variable. Okay, we are naming it for the identification. Okay, all right. And there is one more thing, that the name that you are going to use for variables, they must be named using identifiers. Okay, so this is a little bit about variables. Let's see some examples. So here is an example where I have written int count, assignment operator, and then 39. So let me explain these pieces one by one. Here int is our data type, which we'll see in future that what are data types. Count is the variable, and 39 is the value that we are putting inside our variable value, or you can say data. Okay, so what is happening behind the scene is that whenever you are writing this statement, behind the scene, uh, C program will pick random memory locations from RAM and then assign value 39 into it. Okay, so you can assume that it's a container. Okay, and the container, for identifying this container, we are using the name count for identifying this container, and this data type here, data type is telling us what kind of data you can store inside this variable. Okay, so if it is written int, which means you are only allowed to store integer data inside this variable. Okay, so where we are. Okay, so I am describing you what is basically happening behind the scene. So we have a memory block. Let's say I'm representing it in the form of a box, and for identifying it I'm writing the name, which is the variable. So I have written count here. So this variable can hold integer types only. So since I'm assigning 39 here, so 39 is going to get inside this memory block. Okay, we can also change the value of this variable by reassigning it to another value. Okay, so how can we do that? We can write count assignment operator, and let's say I want to assign 12 into it. So what's going to happen here? It will it will overwrite the 39. So initially it was 39 here, so it will overwrite it to 12. Okay, so by doing this you can reassign value to the count variable. Okay, so there is one more thing which I forgot to mention, which is C. Here C basically C programming. So C is a strongly typed language. Okay, so what do I mean by strongly typed? So strongly typed means once once the type of variable is defined, we cannot change its type. Okay, so which means once we have declared, okay, the count variable is going to hold only and only integer types, then we cannot use count for storing any other data types. Okay, so let me write it down here. All right, variable type once declared cannot be changed. Let me give an example. So here I have written int count 39. So we have a count variable which is only allowed to store integer data types, and here we are assigning 39 to it. Then again we are reassigning count to 40, and now I have created a variable of data type char. Char is a short form for character, and the name that I have chosen here is the count. Okay, now this thing, the third line that I have written, because of this line we are going to face an error. Okay, why? Because C is a strongly typed language. A variable declared once declared a variable type once declared cannot be changed. So the type of count was int, so we cannot change the type of count from int to char. Okay, all right, so let me show you some live examples. So here I am declaring a variable uh, int count, and I'm assigning 39 to it. All right, and so by doing this we have created a variable named count, which has the capacity to store only integer variables, and I am here storing 39 to it. Now I'm assigning it to 12. Okay, so let me run this. So it's totally fine, no error whatsoever. But let's try to change the data type of count. So I have written char and then count. Okay, now if I run it, Okay, so you can see here we have the error. The error is conflicting types for count. Previous definition of count was here, and so it's basically saying that previously we have defined count with integer data type, and now we are defining the same variable count with char. So it's giving us an error. So this is what I basically mean by strongly typed language. Okay. So this is it for this video. Thank you very much. I hope you will able to understand what variable is. Thanks.